thank you all for joining us for another webinar at the Evaluation Observatory, which is a platform for peer learning and knowledge exchange in the evaluation impact ecosystem. I'm Sabina Matthias. I'm Vice President of Research and Advisory Services at Sambodhi Research and Communications. And it is my honor to welcome our very, very accomplished panel who will address the pivotal role that voluntary organizations of professional evaluators or VOPEs play in everything to do with evaluation in South Asia and how they built the evaluation ecosystem. Our moderator today is Rashmi Agrawal, who is an IPDET alumni, as well as she used to be a director of the Government of India, and now she works as an independent M&E consultant. Ziad is a multidisciplinary development professional, and he manages complex evaluations in the Arab world and all over the global South. He's currently also the board member of the International Evaluation Academy and chairs its policy committees. Rajib is a founder and core group member of the Evaluation Community of India and a member of the board of directors of the Community of Evaluators South Asia. He brings a huge amount of perspective to the Indian and the South Asian ecosystem for evaluators. Asela comes with over 2 decades of experience in monitoring and evaluation, and he has been pivotal in bringing about the APA and professionalization of evaluation in Sri Lanka, regionally in South Asia. I'm actually going to turn it over to Rashmi, who will then now lead the session.
Thank you. Good evening, good morning from the place you are joining, and namaste from India. Thank you, Sabina, for giving me this opportunity to moderate this very interesting webinar. It is my pleasure to welcome all the participants and speakers of today's webinar. As you know, the theme of the webinar today is Building Evaluation Ecosystem, the Perspective of Evaluation Associations. Various ingredients constitute strengthening the larger evaluation ecosystem. Some of these could be the status and establishment of monitoring and evaluation system in any country, stakeholders' engagement, both actors and non-actors, and recognition of the importance of evidence-based policies and interventions, establishing evaluation as a separate discipline to professionalize this field and enhance evaluation use. If I say in other words, it is to develop evaluation ecosystem in a country or in a region or at a global level. Both demand for it and supply of quality evaluators are prerequisites. I think demand and supply will emerge from large-scale awareness and advocacy about the importance of evaluations in the development agenda. Evaluation associations are working hard to achieve the goal of building evaluation culture and creating enabling environments. Today's session is an attempt to learn from our excellent speakers about their experiences to this context at various levels. So, as you know, we have 3 outstanding speakers today. I personally have a long association with all of them, and it is always a pleasure to listen to them. As you know, Sabina has already said that we have Rajib Nandi, Asela Kalugampitiya, and Ziad Moussa. So I will give you a little bit about their work and their specialization. Rajib Nandi is Associate Director of the Institute of Social Studies Trust, New Delhi. He has over 24 years of experience in gender transformative research and evaluation. He has a doctoral degree from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, and is an IPDET alumni. He co-edited 2 books. His area of work and publications cover gender and development, social and solidarity economy, new social media, apart from program evaluations and evaluative studies. He was a visiting faculty at the School of Environmental Studies at the University of Delhi. And as Sabina said, he is a co-founder and co-leader of Evaluation Community of India and a member of the governing board, Community of Evaluators South Asia. He is also a member of the council of the newly formed International Evaluation Academy. Our next speaker is Asela Kalugampitiya, who is a Sri Lankan lawyer. currently the president of both the evaluation associations, that is Sri Lankan Evaluation Association and the Asia Pacific Evaluation Association. He is a holder of Master of Evaluation from Germany and has been working in the monitoring and evaluation field for over 2 decades in various international organizations such as IOCE, UN Women, UNICEF, UNFPA, etc. He was instrumental in launching the Global Parliamentarian Forum for Evaluation and managing International Year of Evaluation 2015. He is an advisory committee member of IBDET and honorary director, Center for Evaluation, University of Shri Jayawardhanapura. The Ziad Moussa is a multidisciplinary development professional with an intellectual and professional passion for evaluation. Over the past 20 years, he has managed complex multi-country evaluations across the Arab world and the global south in well over 40 countries. He specializes in evaluation in fragile contexts, particularly in conflict, post-conflict settings, as well as local governance systems and processes. He was the driving force behind establishing the Eval-MENA. He was also elected as president of IOCE and co-chair of Eval Partners. He is currently a board member of International Evaluation Academy and chair its policies committee. Now I invite Rajib Nandi to make his presentation. Over to you, Rajib.
So, around a month back when Sabina approached with this idea of this webinar, immediately I agreed to speak in this webinar. And without thinking, giving much thoughts, we thought that we have enough actually to share on the VOPEs and VOPE movements in South Asia and India. But when I started organizing my thoughts around the topic, and then I faced that first challenge. I thought I'll start with the term called ecosystem, evaluation ecosystem, and started because these days I've been developing different kind of models of evaluation ecosystem. We all know that this term has been borrowed from biology. But then I realized this ecosystem, when the landscape is human constructed socially, then whatever ecosystem you try to construct and build, though it definitely follows that natural rules, the production and the supply and supply, it becomes very, very political. Everything what is created or developed constructed by our society, it becomes very, very political. Anyways, it was becoming very, very difficult. And then we realized that the ecosystem is not maybe at one level. Ecosystem perhaps at different multiple levels, and all systems are perhaps interconnected. Anyways, then I thought a shorter, easier route actually, and I thought that I'll present my thoughts in a much simpler manner. And this is the way I try to divide my presentation today. So it's very three basic kind of I thought that I'll concentrate my presentation on the experiences of the VOPE from its genesis and to the present day, and what's actually we are looking and what kind of future actually we are expecting in the coming years. So its genesis, its progress from VOPE's role of visibilizing evaluation, how and we can become and can contribute in evaluation ecosystem, and definitely the future kind of convergence and sustainability definitely. And I just presented this thought through this simple kind of a graphics where I divided these phases in 4 stages basically. The first, that the initial stage, just before that associations were even born. So definitely these phases are overlapping. It's not that it's one level, one stage ends and that activities are stopped. And I wanted to put these boxes, basically different kind of strategies we adopted throughout these years. And it is not one stage is over and that strategy is gone. Even today, when I think that we are perhaps in the stage 2, we are still continuously working on building public awareness, developing capacities, and we are still trying to look for more strategies to exchange our knowledge, our theories and practice and etc. What were the driving forces of these VOPEs? And I'm talking a time period, sometime maybe around in the early 2000s perhaps. Like when in the South Asian region there are a quite good number of evaluators who are there from the south already. There is a need to perhaps kind of build a kind of a solidarity among these evaluation professionals in South Asia, and solidarity in terms of also to to discuss and see that kind of nature of the tours, kind of assignments they were getting, and what are the nature of the fees and how to actually negotiate with the the people, the agencies who are actually writing the tours. No, I just want to remind you, this is a time when evaluation perhaps was on one hand it's a very kind of a government kind of activity. It is it's a job of the governments to evaluate their own programs. Like in India, planning commission was there to who are actually evaluating different government programs, or the other ministries actually who are actually evaluating. But it was not much in the in the public discourse about evaluation, about evidence and how it's contributing actually in the development process, these activities of evaluation. So it was much like an activity, and definitely it's very, very donor driven kind of thing. And and that's a time when there are a group of evaluators in South Asia who started working in the field as evaluators, and that's why this question comes, like, who is an evaluator? Otherwise, a lot of people actually started evaluating different kind of programs and different kind of policies, perhaps. Okay, so the question also raised what kind of basic minimum qualification or experience is required to become an evaluator? And those questions are still there. I mean, it's not that those questions or those issues has been resolved already. But these are the also primary initial questions in their minds. What is monitoring and evaluation? Is just an activity, or is just a profession, or it's an integral part of the program designing or the development process? So those questions definitely were asked, and definitely the most important question which was raised during that period, even now, that what value as evaluators we create for the society. Okay, and because many a time what happens in this region, that evaluation remains as an afterthought. It's not built in the process. It's a donor driven kind of activity that donor has asked me to evaluate, so we have to evaluate. So it's a kind of a very, very tokenistic, very ritualistic kind of activity that we have to do it because donor has asked us to do it. So if you look at the initial objectives of the VOPEs, and when I'm talking about the VOPEs, what are the VOPEs that time in India? So I'm talking about the early 2000s. So it was, absolutely, the Sri Lanka Evaluation Association was there. I think it was founded sometime around 1999. And then maybe Development Evaluation Society of India, which is primarily a consortium of evaluators in India. And I think maybe a few more, I'm not sure, but these are the primary. SLEBA definitely started working in the evaluation, I think, sometime before a lot of other VOPEs came in this region. But I think if you look at the initial objectives, these initial objectives were very much linked with that driving force, why we need actually an association. It was basically to visualize the evaluation and bring evidence, in the forefront of the policy debate and policy making actually, and also to build streamlining evaluation systems in the country, in the region. And definitely it was required to bring the multiple stakeholders, the professionals, the practitioners, academia, government. So I think everyone came together and formed first regional VOPE was the Community of Evaluators South Asia. Sometime it was founded with multiple partners. And one more struggle actually was how to develop that structure, the governance structure. Okay, how to build VOPE as an organization that which began during that time is still continuing perhaps. So if you look at the kind of the graphics I showed you earlier, I will go back to the graphics later towards the end of this presentation. But still, it is evaluation profession to build the capacity, because otherwise what what kind of basic minimum like qualification is required to exchange definitely the ideas, the theories and practice, and public awareness, which still we are struggling to do. Now, if we look at so we have seen these are the activities like, capacity, awareness, public awareness, like, builds our organization. But if you look at the list of the activities, it primarily concentrated around the conference. There is a conference, like, it's a pre-conference workshop, maybe this is a capacity development or series of capacity development work conference platform. So what I'm trying to say here, all those activities got concentrated in a single platform. That became the platform. The conference became the only platform. So it's become the platform of the knowledge exchange. It became the platform of the capacity building. It becomes the platform of the raising public awareness. So all those things. But if I was looking at some like historical document of community of evaluators very recently, I was seeing that they discussed about four tracks, like writing track, training track, practice track, institutional development track, but all got like encompassed there within that conference kind of mode. So, but if you look at the challenges, list of challenges, it was very much there. Like, governance structure and legal registration, it's not very sure. It's all like, learning from doing it. Leadership chaos, like, if somehow the organizations could open up for people to join in as leaders. Rather, it closed actually for specific leadership. So it's not intentionally done, but it's perhaps came from some kind of a fear that the main objectives of the association might get diluted. Like, if we can hold that like kind of fort, the leadership thing. So the organizational culture was not developing in that way, the way it was expected. And definitely another very, very important thing is that business model. I mean, how to sustain that organization. See, in South Asia, it was not like the developed countries, like, the associations in the developed countries where they did a lot of like, professional, used to hold a lot of workshops, professionalized for the capacity development workshops, a paid kind of workshops, which we couldn't do here. I mean, there's not many people perhaps to subscribe kind of those kind of activities, which is primarily the paid activities. Now, from there, I want to come to the next part. Like, for me, like, 2015 was a turning point. It's not that, the table was completely like, turned, but both at global level and at local level, it became an opportunity for like, the VOPE movement to maybe flourish or take maybe opportunity to take different kind of strategies. So incidentally, it was also the International Year of Evaluation. By that time, like, the eval partners already got like, a wide acceptance as a global platform for development stakeholders. So I know, by the second global forum, eval partners already created that kind of environment and kind of landscape. So slowly from conference mode to regular exchange mode, P2P kind of grant was also introduced. So then the Global Parliamentary Forum for Evaluation was launched in 2015. The Eval Youth was launched, which became the main like kind of a mass mobilizer these days. And SDGs were adopted during that period. If you look at even the topic of the evaluation conclave, in 2011 it was like making evaluation matter. 2013 it was evaluation to development. So, and if you look at the title of topic of the evaluation 2015, it's like bridging gap, building bridges. So center of focus also shifted from VOPE to networks. It became like, much more maybe easier and open up for the leadership to flourish through these kind of networks actually. And networks become much more vibrant and proactive mode to take the movement forward. But also I want to mention here, 2015 was also the year when the evaluation community of India was established with a model of shared leadership, which actually adopted by many VOPEs later, because we are very, very, very conscious about it, that leadership is very, very important for any kind of voluntary kind of movement in South Asia, in India, and in South Asia. So if you look at very quickly to the almost like towards the end of my presentation, the journey from 2016 to 2021, you can see the loss of like a lot of activities that we have done. Definitely, it's not that we achieved everything, but definitely the networks and the collaboration is much more stronger, much more robust these days. The leadership extended, Evaluate become a mass mobilizer. national, regional initiatives towards professionalism of evaluation. I think Asela will speak much more on that. We new initiatives have been taken. ECOI, it's such a small organization. We drafted a evaluation policy for India also and presented to the government. And definitely the one very good thing has happened. We didn't go to the DMO. DMO came to us and asked what kind of collaboration actually we can build actually to develop the ecosystem in India. But similarly, it's a long list of challenges. Absolutely, evidence-based policy design. Where are we? Still we in India, there are if you look at the number of civil societies, more than 300,000 civil societies there in India. Even if you go and see that, where the evidence actually placed there in the program design, it's still not evidence, but still anticipation. The public discourse, we are very recently trying to find out what kind of public discourses are there on evaluation. It's not many actually, very, very few. Decolonizing evaluation, which is a very big thing. A lot of people are talking these days, but still, even now we are looking at the North, looking at the approaches and frameworks developed there. What kind of knowledge we built here? Still we are struggling. We are still at the very, very basic level. Questions of inclusion and equity, absolutely still an afterthought. It's sab kuch ho gaya, everything is done. Let's develop a section on equity. Where are the policy makers? We know how we struggled to get one parliamentarians for our Eval Fest last year. So it's not that easy. They are still not ready to prepare to listen to the VOPEs. Just last thing, very quickly in just half a minute. But still, I think we are very positive. I think the advantage is it's a growing youth leadership in South Asia. People are recognizing the voluntary bodies and networks. They see the value. They recognize this. So still, it's actually relevant. And definitely some early initiatives in professionalization and building competency frameworks in this region at least. So I'm sure that we have a long way to go and a lot of challenges are there. But we are, I think, only 2 points I want to highlight here. One is the convergence because activities are happening right now. We are still fragmented. We don't know who is doing what. So some kind of convergence is required definitely. And I think we have to think about the sustainability of VOPEs and how we can remain relevant and important in this landscape. That is definitely still a challenge and still the questions are hanging on our heads. Yeah, I should like to stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajib ji, for your inspiring presentation and highlighting some of the pressing issues, especially the need for solidarity among evaluation professionals and sustainability of VOPEs. So our next speaker is Asela Kalugampitiya, who is going to give us a regional perspective. Asela, to you.
I'm really happy to be in this panel today, the webinar, together with, of course, Ziad Moussa, our great leader and friend, and also Rajib Nandi, our great friend. I hope we will have great discussion today. Let me also share some viewpoints from me regarding evaluation associations in Asia Pacific region, because as the President of the Asia Pacific Evaluation Association, I'm always thinking the region is having evaluation associations, National Evaluation Association, and how they are spread in the region. Actually, when I take sub-regions in Asia Pacific, South Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, Pacific, number of countries in South Asia are 8, as we all know. And number of VOPEs are 16. You can see average one country has at least 2 VOPEs, right, in average. And 7 out of these 8 countries are member of Asia Pacific Evaluation Association. East Asia, there are 6 VOPEs. And there are 6 countries and 4 VOPEs. And 3 are members of Asia Pacific Evaluation Association. And Southeast Asia, there are 11 countries and 7 VOPEs. You can see East Asia and Southeast Asia, only 50% of VOPEs. 50% of countries have VOPEs. And only 6 countries are members of Regional Evaluation Association Pacific, except Australia and New Zealand, because I'm not sure whether they are categorized as Australasia. And there are so many Pacific islands, but I have taken only main islands. there is no VOPE in any of these Pacific countries. And of course, there is no member. So what does it mean? So South Asia, so many VOPEs, 16 VOPEs compared to 8 countries, and East Asia, some VOPEs, Southeast Asia, some VOPEs, Pacific 0. And we see this even in participation in different events or international fora, regional fora, that Pacific is missing. And South Asia, East Asia, East Asia, there are some participation, and South Asia South Asia is more active and South Asians are more active. So I would see this from the regional perspective that there is some imbalance regarding the evaluation field in Asia Pacific region. So we are trying to bring more capacity building, more initiatives for other sub-regions to be more active and avoid this imbalance. And when it comes to VOPEs, Rajiv ji mentioned, several aspects. I also want to mention about governance. Of course, there are governance tools. There should be a constitution, some rules, leadership, board, and handing over from one board to the other, and communication and institutional memory of an organization, even if it is not a VOPE. And how do we deal with other organizations, other partners? And what I have seen in not only in this region, but other regions as well, the VOPEs face a lot of governance issues. And we have, in Asia Pacific region, range of VOPEs, if you take 0 to 100, so the ideal situation is, of course, VOPE has good constitution. They have active board, and there are regular board meetings, and leadership is moving according to the constitution. And VOPE has annual work plan, and they implement it. And at the same time, they hand over to the next board, and there's institutional memory and smoothly running. And if you take the other end, there are VOPEs, just the name, no membership, no board, there's no constitution, but name is in the list. So we are working with VOPEs ranging from this ideal situation to the VOPEs which are just in the list, right? And we are talking about ecosystem. We are talking about national evaluation policies and systems. VOPEs as instrumental partners, VOPEs as advocates for the governments for the professionalization of evaluation. So now you see the challenge. And also VOPEs has resource constraints, and the volunteerism is a challenge. We call it voluntary organization for professional evaluation, as Sabina mentioned. At the same time, the word volunteer, voluntary organization, voluntary is a challenge, because you have your day jobs, you have your family, you have your education and all. At the same time, you have to put some time for the VOPE as well. That's why we have to think about VOPE as a professional organization, how we make it professional organization. Otherwise, how VOPEs can address professionalization of evaluation if the VOPE is not a professional body. And also, I'm thinking all the time when we talk about VOPEs in our region, if you struggle with all these governance, we can see that VOPEs are struggling with governance and some other issues. There's no time, just fighting or trying to get things right and hand over to another group. Where is the space for core business? What is our core business? Our core business is promotion of evaluation, strengthen the professionalization as the professional network. And also, I want to quickly show you this from the Global Evaluation Agenda 2016-2020. What does it mean by evaluation ecosystem? So there are evaluation policies, evaluation systems, resources are needed, evaluation use is important, and at the same time, context and culture matters. At the same time, demand and supply. How do we, address that? And how do we work with the users? These are, very important factors. When it comes to evaluation policies, regulations, in Asia Pacific region, there are few countries which have regulations in place. Number one, Nepal. Nepal has evaluation in the constitution 2015. Rajib ji mentioned 2015 is a turning point. Why? International Year of Evaluation. At the same time, we had some parliamentarians champions who were promoting evaluation. We had one champion in the Nepal Constitutional Reform Committee who was instrumental in including evaluation in the constitution. Section 54 and 293 are direct, but there are many other provisions in the Nepal constitution, so which is very strong. At the same time, they have Draft Evaluation Policy Act. And Sri Lanka has National Evaluation Policy endorsed in 2018 and Draft Act, and Japan 2001. These three countries, the evaluation regulations or policies are backed by the VOPE. VOPE played an instrumental role in this. And also we have Philippines, which has the National Evaluation Policy Framework, Indonesia and Mongolia. Philippines, of course, it was backed by UNICEF at that time. Indonesia and Mongolia are the stakeholders. So some countries we can see that VOPE has played a big role in bringing the evaluation regulation. So VOPE can play that role. At the same time, when it comes to professionalization, how many VOPEs, so how many countries are working in professionalization of evaluation? We know Canada, they have the Credential Evaluator program, and other countries like American Evaluation Association, New Zealand Evaluation Association, European Evaluation Association, they have frameworks developed, but not implemented yet. So how many countries have implemented this? And I have heard that many people say that this is challenging, professionalization. Of course, it's challenging, but when are we going to initiate this? If we don't start it now, we will never have it. So I think for the region, we have developed a competency framework. The idea is that the framework can be adapted by the National Evaluation Associations, National VOPEs. So we want to encourage all the national VOPEs to adapt it and use it. And we have 6 competency domains identified in the competency framework, 43 competencies and 208 indicative behaviors. Someone might ask, do I need to have 43 competencies? Of course, it's a question whether you need to have, or how do we rate that? But we have not, even Sri Lanka started the process, developed the professionalization process. We have the draft competency framework. We have to finalize it in a face-to-face session. That's why we are waiting a bit. An assessment pathway is identified, but we have not decided it, whether it should be, what is the recognition model, whether it should be certification or credential evaluator program like Canada. We are yet to decide that. So my question is, if not VOPEs are taking the lead, who else can take the lead in professionalization? But I don't see many VOPEs are ready to take the lead in professionalization process in countries. Of course, you have to work with the government, others, but my thinking is that VOPEs should take the lead. And taking the advantage of global context, UN resolution on evaluation 2015, actually December 2014, but it started in 2015. UN member countries are party to this, and UN member countries are obliged to report to the Secretary General on progress of this. I don't see any countries reported to the UN Secretary General on progress of this. And the other opportunity is UN resolution on sustainable development goals, because every year, number of countries voluntarily submit reviews to the high-level political forum, VNRs. in VNRs, evaluative evidence is missing. So how can VOPEs play a role to include evaluative evidence or incorporate evaluation in the VNRs? So what is the role VOPEs can play? The other thing is, even regarding the UN resolution, VOPEs can take it as an opportunity to work with the government, to influence the government, advocate the government. And other opportunities, of course, IOC, where Ziad was the president, Eval Partners, where Ziad was the co-chair. He will explain all these. And the networks Rajib ji mentioned, these are opportunities, especially young and eval youth, young and emerging evaluators is important. And the capacity building initiatives global, I just have given the example IPTAC. In 2019, this is the graph for 2019, only 10% from Asia attended IPTAC. And you can see Europe, more than 40%. Africa, of course, if you take different parts of Africa, it's more than 30%. But Asia, if you take all the parts of Asia, only 10% or less than 10%. So VOPEs have to promote this, participation in capacity building programs by their members or governments who are their partners. So future of the profession, of course, future of the VOPEs as well. I think VOPEs need to work on governance, get it right, but our core business is not to work on the VOPE governance. Our core business is to promote evaluation, work on evaluation, make the VOPE a professional body, focus on professionalization. I think we need to start today, not tomorrow, and promote support and provide space for young and emerging evaluators. I think that is the DNA for VOPEs in coming years. And if we start now, next 5 years, 10 years, we will not complain about not having competent evaluators. 10 years, 20 years, I'm a member of Sri Lanka Evaluation Association now like 18 years. Always I hear that no competent evaluators, but I don't expect to hear that complaint in next 5-10 years if we really do the capacity building of young and emerging evaluators and prepare them for the future. And partnerships, work with the parliament, universities to bring academic courses on monitoring and evaluation. Sri Lanka has one, and we want other countries also to start this in this region, and development partners to bring some resources and partner and also collaborate, not compete. We have also seen the competition. At the same time, practice what we preach. We have to, as VOPEs, we have to focus on results. This is what we are preaching to others. We have to use evidence to improve our work. This is what I think we can make a difference in the evaluation profession and evaluation field by VOPEs. And of course, we can have a good discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Asela, and well in time. And you have highlighted the status of VOPEs in Asia Pacific region, indicating the need for professionalization of evaluation and how VOPEs can play a pivotal role towards this goal. You also very rightly raised the issue of governance. Now it is time to invite our last but not least speaker, Ziad Moussa, who is going to give us a global perspective of VOPEs and challenges. The floor is yours, Ziad.
Well, thank you, Rashmi. Thank you, colleagues. Good afternoon, morning, evening, depending on where you are from Beirut, Lebanon. Well, an old trick for those who have worked with me before know that I'm a big storyteller. So I rely a lot on pictures and I rely a lot on stories. And I would not fail to that today. Basically, we have 3 key words shaping our presentation today: ecosystems, evaluation, and VOPEs. So let me get a bit of musing on each of these topics. Let's start with the ecosystem. The story goes as follows. A little camel, here in the region, we rely a lot on camels. was asking his mother, can I ask you some questions? And the mother said, of course, yes, please. And then he said, why do camels have humps, Mom? And the mother said, you know, we are desert animals. We're known to survive without water. And the hump is essential in keeping us alive in the desert. And then it goes like, why our legs are round, our legs are tall, and our feet are round. And then the mother said, you know, dear, in the desert, there's sand, so you need long feet and round hoof to be able to walk in the desert. And then he said, one more question, Mom. Why our eyelashes are so long? Sometimes it bothers my sight. And the mother said, well, naturally, son, because in the desert, there's a lot of sun, there's a lot of dust, so sand, wind, so you need long eyelashes to get you going. So the little camel is doing a recap. So basically, humps are to store water because we are in the desert. The legs are for walking through the desert. The eyelashes are to protect our eyes from the sand in the desert. What the hell are we doing in the zoo? What's the moral of the zoo story? The moral of the zoo story, my dear friends, is in line with what Rajib and Asela were saying. There are rules, there are laws, there are systems, but if the VOPEs do not mirror these laws, these systems, these needs into their daily work, then it would be a zoo, trapped in the zoo. So when we, have a very fancy system for fighting corruption, and we sit very strongly in the bottom of the corruption index, then the VOPE has something to do. When we speak about development and poverty alleviation and fancy terms, and nothing is happening on the ground, then the VOPE has something to say. And of course, the VOPE is not a political party, although somewhere there is a bit of activism that should be involved. But the fatal tool in the hand of a VOPE is evaluation. And hence, I would say the first takeaway, also looking at the number of countries and the number of VOPEs and the governance challenges and everything, every valid thing that Asela has mentioned. Obviously, we have a problem on many fronts. VOPEs cannot be in the zoo. The place of the VOPEs is in the societies they serve. So that is maybe my first takeaway on ecosystems. There's a lot more, but in 15 minutes, that's how it goes. Now let's go to evaluation. Asela mentioned eval partners, and we keep on mentioning M&E, monitoring and evaluation. It's like Siamese twins that cannot be cut. But in practice, there is a lot of emphasis on monitoring and far less emphasis on evaluation. In other terms, if we go into the eval hospital, if we have the tools and the techniques and the people who can do the monitoring, it's just like setting up the hospital and having the operation rooms and the admin staff and everybody around, but not the doctors who keep the hospital going. So basically, the message is to stop using M&E, interchangeably. Monitoring is a discipline, has its tools, has its art, has its uses, and evaluation is the meta view on that puts monitoring into perspective. It's the beating heart. It's the doctors that keep the eval hospital going strong. Another thing is that for those of us who work in monitoring and evaluation, we are often focused on measuring inputs and determining the efficiency and effectiveness and coherence of outputs, etc. While, as also Rajib and Asela were saying, the focus should be on the results. And what are the results? The results are the profound changes, what I would call the transformational processes, through which any development initiative, any policy, any action that is being taken for the people, and hopefully by the people, leads to a certain positive transformation in the lives of these people. And hence, there is a call, on one hand, of course, to work on professionalization, to work on systems, to work on definitions, to decolonize, to what have you. But again, the beating heart of all of these processes is to be able to focus on people. And Asela was mentioning the voluntary national reviews or reports that are being submitted to the General Assembly of the UN to say how good or how brilliant governments were in achieving the SDGs. But the work of our colleagues at Eval SDGs have shown that a lot of these voluntary national reviews do contain a lot of poetry, a lot of literature, and a little evidence, and that they are primarily built on, let's say, monitoring data, what is happening, but not taking the challenge or the extra step of going into analyzing what has happened. So evaluation should be at the center. And when we speak about VOPEs, about voluntary organizations for professional evaluation, then evaluation should be at the core, my friends. Otherwise, let's call ourselves VOPEs, so for professional monitoring rather than evaluation. And let's speak finally a few thoughts on VOPEs. I really love this cartoon. And the skipper is saying, well, I've got it too, Omar, a strange feeling that we've been going in circles. And if you look at this cartoon, it's basically because those with big hands, government, UN, those who have the resources are taking the boat somewhere. But there's the rest of the crowd, the users, the CSOs, the VOPEs, everybody who is on the same boat, who does not have these muscles. So basically, it's a plea for a smarter distribution of resources, for mixing up, possibly bring two to the left, take two to the right, so that the effort in taking this eval boat into destination does not turn in circles, but rather sails in the right direction. And this is also very important and at the core of the work of the VOPEs. I come from the Global South. As Asela mentioned, I've had the pleasure and the honor of leading IOC, of leading Eval Partners in 2015-16, when all the beautiful things like Eval SDGs and Eval Youth and what have you were being born and being nurtured. And I've seen that the big struggle is how you ensure that VOPEs, who are the father and the mother of the bride, I mean, the custodians of the evaluation at the national and at the regional level, are struggling to find the needed resources to be on par with everybody else who is on the boat. And after that, don't ask me why the boat is going in circles. The boat is going in circles because resources are not distributed in an equitable way. And unfortunately, again, especially in the global south, we tend to play the game. So if somebody comes with a bit of money and say, do this, we're going to go and do this, because if we don't do it, we're not going to have the resources to do that and that and that and that. So in that sense, when we speak about VOPEs having a mission, having a vision, having a solid anchorage, leading by example in terms of governance, being proactive in hunting for resources, etc., 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 this should be at the core of the work of the VOPEs. And last but not least, something that is really dear to my heart. One more thing before. Look at this picture. What does it remind you? Well, at least for me, it reminds me when all these beautiful conferences. I mean, yeah, I was lucky to be in charge when we were able to travel and cross the 6 continents and meet people and talk without masks. And don't worry if we're vaccinated and if there's a delta and a beta and an epsilon and what have you. But typically, most of our conferences would end in a picture like this one. While to me, something like this picture is more important. What happens after we talk? What happens after we discuss? What happens after we negotiate? What happens after all our annual conferences? I mean, at the core of the work of all the VOPEs are annual conferences at a local level and at a regional level and at an international level. But what actions are being derived? How is empowerment being translated? This is, in my opinion, a key issue that also needs to be embedded in the work of the VOPEs. So at the end of the year, don't tell me how many events you organized. Tell me how many inertias you have shaped, how many actions you have taken, how many policies, how many programs became better because of your presence. And this is how VOPEs get their relevance. And last but not least, I love this picture. That was in Nepal in 2015 when we were launching Eval SDGs. And these are what was then the nucleus of Eval Youth, and that later became that big movement you all know. When I look back at this golden era, 6 or 7 years later now, I realized that we've done a lot. We've moved in the right direction. We've grown. Like when I look today, 75 people, I probably don't know 60 or 70 of them. That is an achievement. The community is growing. More people are getting interested. More people are seeing evaluation as their vocation, as their job. But here, let me say, if it's just a job, forget about it. It should be passion first. Job and success will follow after. Anyway, back to this picture when they were proudly holding, and these were hot from the press. 2015, you know, the goals have been hot from the press. But now I look forward and seeing more active. I look forward and seeing Mr. Elon Musk speaking about evaluation. I look forward having Mrs. Kardashian talking about evaluation. I look forward, having Greta Thunberg around her messages about equity, speaking about evaluation. The message here is that in order not to reach a glass ceiling where we become those same people meeting virtually and face-to-face and talking about evaluation and various circles, we need to expand our horizons. We need to bring influential people in India and Sri Lanka, in Philippines and Mongolia and all the countries that are served by APEA and elsewhere, so that they become, alongside with us, not only advocates, but they create new opportunities and new markets for evaluation. That is everything I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ziad. We all know that a picture can speak 1,000 words. and you have shown very interesting and very useful pictures and very nice stories on that. And through your stories, you have tried to interlink the ecosystem evaluation and VOPEs. Thank you very much. And you have very rightly said that we need to expand our horizon. That is very good point. So I will combine two questions here. One is from Anisha and one is another from Yulia, and these I think are interconnected. Anisha is asking that countries like India and other developing nations, how challenging can be the process of professionalization? And I think Asela can take it up. And I think this question is also related to the utilization of evaluations, which Yulia is raising this issue of utilization, that how to ensure that evaluation results to be utilized properly for informed policies for development programs. Asela, over to you.
Thank you for this question, the people who posted it. And I think now regarding professions, not only evaluation profession, we have lawyers, accountants, engineers, doctors. These are the mostly well-known professions, and most of the countries, they have established it and people recognize it, and there is a path for that to become a profession, to become a lawyer. There is a path. I'm a lawyer, and there is a path to become a lawyer, and even for doctors there is a path. So it doesn't mean whether it's India or Pakistan or Sri Lanka or Lebanon, other country, if they establish the process, the pathway, it will work, right? So of course there are some challenges you need to fix, but in general the professions are established. So why we are talking about evaluation profession, it's so difficult or so challenging, and why not this country it might be a challenge, because as I mentioned in the presentation as well, what I see here is that actually we are not starting it. Somehow we have to start the process and also see what are the ingredients we need. So to become a profession, evaluation as a profession, what should be there? We don't have fundamentals. We don't have academic courses, because if you want to be a doctor, there is the education path for that, and there is training for that. There is experience, and then there is endorsement process. Then you become a doctor, right? For the evaluation process, whether these ingredients are in place. So that's the question. So we need to see what are the ingredients. And that's why I think that international organizations like IOC can play a big role in this. And I see that still IOC is not into that. IOC should take a very proactive role in this, and also get VOPEs involved. And at the same time, VOPEs have to work with the governments, because VOPEs cannot establish a profession alone. VOPEs can be motivators. VOPEs can start that as a professional associations. They can advocate for that, but at the same time it should be a national process. The government should also be involved. So all these ingredients should be in place. At the same time, VOPEs can start that process. VOPEs can mobilize others as well. So unless we establish it as a profession, the recognition will not be there, because today anyone can declare that I'm an evaluator. If you can write a good report, if you can make a nice presentation, some people like that as well, right? There are many qualified, competent evaluators. At the same time, that aspect is also there. That's what I meant. So it should not be the case. Then only recognition will come if the clear pathway is there and competent evaluators can be recognized as evaluators. So I think we have to see how other professions are doing, and also what are the ingredients, and then how can we make it so the government, VOPE, parliament, other actors can come together and make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Asela. The other question is from Abhishek Sharma and it is addressed to Ziad. Ziad, according to you, what strategies should be adopted to distribute resources in an equitable way in VOPEs?
What strategies should be adopted? First, we need a strategy, and then we need to adopt the strategy, and then we need to work on the strategy, and then among everybody else on this planet as evaluators, we need to evaluate if the strategy is going in the right direction or not. Adding up to what Asela said, and Asela and I go a long way and collaborating and dealing with VOPEs. The thing is that in many instances, and again, in the global south, in developing countries, we miss this strategizing. So we're happy to be together, we're happy to attend conferences, we're happy to attend lectures, but that component of getting action-oriented, of getting into results, and then being held accountable as leadership and as membership on whether we're achieving these results or not, is something to be debated. Now, there are a lot of entry points, and sometimes we can be what I call constructively opportunistic. So we're seeing, for example, a lot of unrest or a lot of unsatisfaction on how governments are handling the COVID-19 issue. But actually, in Europe, in the States, with some nuances, you know, when Fauci in the States, when Fauci speaks, everybody listens. And now, when deciding on whether we go for vaccine X or vaccine Y, on whether we go for 2 shots or for 3 shots, or whether vaccines are effective or not, all of this is evaluation in the making. Suddenly, evaluation the last 2 years is in the headline news. Evaluation as in evaluating what works and what not, what saved lives or what not. So this could be, for example, a direction to take, to have really an independent stance to say what worked well, what did not work well. And that would entail, for example, reaching out to practitioners in the medical field who are often left on the sidelines from our work as VOPEs. And since I'm having the floor and looking a bit at the questions like where VOPEs were really successful, can I give an example? And I can tell you that Articles 74 and 75 in Agenda 2030, you wouldn't have seen them. Articles 74 and 75 that do call on improving national evaluation capacity and on making all the progress related to Agenda 2030 evidence-based. So this was at the core of our global lobbying efforts in 2014, 2015, when Agenda 2030 was being developed, to put a place for the profession in what would become the blueprint of the road to 2030. So that was it. Now, how do you pick it up from the global and regional level into the local level? This is left to every VOPE and to the passion of everyone. Because again, when we speak about VOPE, it's a V in the beginning, it's voluntary. So when volunteers are working, you need to smartly choose what I call low-hanging, high-impact actions, and then go with them till the end. Make yourself known. Go on the media. Go on TV. Let the press ask you what you think about it. It's not the matter for just the CSOs and the politicians to speak about the development of the country. We as evaluators have something to say.
Thank you, Ziad. Now I will take a question from Pultar. I can see a lot of young evaluators and emerging evaluators have joined today's webinar, and I think this question will help them. And it is addressed to Rajib Ji. In your opinion, how successful Evaluation Association has been in drawing young evaluators to the field of evaluation, and whether we have been able to promote evaluation as a career option? Rajiv Nandi, over to you.
Yeah, definitely. We have been working in this direction. We are trying to create that kind of an environment where, like, young professionals, young graduates see the value in this profession, and see the evaluation as a career option. We're trying to do it. We are successful to some extent. Definitely, I can give you a few examples. Like in last year in 2020, we did conducted a basic online basic M&E course for the undergraduate and graduate students of University of Delhi. And we very happy to tell that we got like 90 students actually joined the course, and few of them actually contacted many of us later, the resource persons, to know more about the profession, and to also wanted to know that what kind of subjects they should select for the studies in the master's level, or what are the options actually to, if they want to select this as a profession. This year only in March, we also organized the first virtual winter school for the young and emerging evaluators. Those people definitely are like young professionals who started working in the development sector in recent time. Also to tell them actually how to build their career actually, if they think that evaluation is a good career option. It is, and also wanted to try to motivate them actually that why it's actually a good career option, and how it's different from many other professional activities, doctors or engineers maybe, because there is a possibility to become a change maker actually in this profession. You can create the that make the change and be part of that process of the system. And yeah, so but lot of people also sometimes ask that is it really a good time also, one young a PhD student recently contacted me to ask that if he wants to study public policy and evaluation actually, then will there be enough jobs for him? I mean, I'm not too sure. I couldn't tell him that absolutely there would be jobs, but I see that openings. I think I see that some little bit progression to that direction. And I think that's a positive thing. I think hopefully in next few years we'll be able to see that there are more opportunities and scopes for the young professionals to join this sector.
Thank you, Rajiv ji. And I think in future we have good prospects for evaluation career. Now here is a very challenging question, and let us see. I think Asela can answer this. It is from Aditya. In your experience, how to best handle differing competitive interests of different evaluation organizations? Asela, over to you.
It's a challenging question. I think now when it comes to professional organizations, and definitely there are different interests, and also marking your boundaries, right? This is our area, maybe geographically, maybe thematic areas, and we have seen that managing interest is one challenging area. But what we are doing in Asia Pacific is trying to partner with all the possible organizations, all the possible VOPEs and other stakeholders. And we try to be inclusive, because when we have an event, we try to include, whoever is, interested to partner, their logo, and, make them, partners and engage in that. And the most challenging part is sometimes how do you manage, the egos? That's the most difficult part, especially the personal agendas. And that's where I have seen, some organizations, some VOPEs face challenges, because I see one VOPE, the president is lifetime president. And when members wanted to change that, Actually, the president was for a long time, but when the members wanted to change that, president became the lifetime president and appointed another president, right? And some organizations, of course, think that working alone, only your name and only your logo is better. But we believe that working with many organizations, including many working together, is better. So that's why we have even Asia Pacific evaluation strategy we developed, and we say that although partners, Asia Pacific Evaluation Association and Evaluate Asia with some others developed it, it doesn't belong to us. Although we implement it, anyone can participate, anyone can take part in implementing it. Right. So anyone is interested can contribute to that, because if we mark our boundaries, it's difficult. Of course, as human beings, as organizations, it happens naturally. But at the same time, we have to see that because this is a long way for us to go, because evaluation is, as we discussed several times today, is not an established profession. That's why it's a long way. Lawyers, doctors, associations don't have these issues, but evaluation profession has that, right? So, regional evaluation strategy, we definitely, encourage others also to join and also take the credit for that. So that inclusive process would help to manage this interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Asela. We have 3-4 more minutes for the question answer session, and we can have quick answers from our speakers to a few questions. I will take a question from Sabina. She's asking, how have the VOPEs been able to drive changes in adoption of M&E activities from just monitoring performances to actual evaluations? So, should I ask this question to Ziad? Because he can show the journey from monitoring to actual evaluation, how it has been the experience at global level.
I mean, my main concern is that most of the opportunities that are being given, particularly for young and emerging evaluators, but also evaluators who do not hold fancy passports, is that you do the interviews and you collect the data and you do the monitoring, and then somebody with a fancier passport would come and do the evaluation. And at least in the MENA region, this has been a main fight for us. And it took a while, but let's say that for the last 2-3 years at least, the senior evaluators who are working on the topic need to speak Arabic to be able to apply for these positions. So that immediately puts the locals at par with imported. In that sense, that is a very important fight to do. The other fight, I think, is on how do you break away the circle. So typically, an evaluation is commissioned by someone. Somebody does it, discuss it with a smaller group, and then live happily ever after. What happens after that? What actions are being taken? What changes are being drawn? How these evaluations are shaping lives? And here there's a stream in the global evaluation family that is called Evaluation for Action, that is looking for that particular aspect. So there again, linking evaluation and use would be the best way to cross it.
Thank you, Ziad. And I will take the last question now, because there are several questions which are very relevant and interesting, but I think the discussion can go on and on, but the time doesn't permit. So the one last question, I will address it to Rajiv. How do we get everyone on the same page, and organizations, countries, stakeholders, nationally and internationally together, when the end goal is the same, but the ways of approaching are different?
One sentence does. I think you have to be very, very much more accommodative and inclusive, actually, to allow and to encourage and facilitate kind of empowerment to voice different kind of perspectives and different kind of approaches to reach to that particular goal. There is not one path, so multiple paths and and absolutely that openness will provide that kind of platform.
So the last sentence from Ziad.
And it goes as follows. To go far in the eval world, you need to approach it with passion. My message, particularly for young evaluators, is to earn their place in the sun, to find a relevant topic and make it a cause or a fight, depending on if you're a pacifist or a warrior. And if your cause or fight is genuine, then success awaits. Thank you for this wonderful session today.
Thank you, Ziad, and very nice message in the chat box. Please read. I request all of you. And the last key takeaway from you, Asela, for this session.
I would say working with non-traditional partners, I mean parliamentarians, of course, working with, like Ziad mentioned, young and emerging evaluators and many others, and also raise awareness among citizens about evaluation would make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Asela. So I will now close the question answer session and quickly wrap up the session by stating a few takeaways. Actually, existence of a comprehensive evaluation ecosystem does not just mean the mere existence of institutions that conduct evaluations from time to time. It means mechanisms that encourage and promote appreciation of the importance of evidence-based decision making, commissioning and conducting high-quality evaluations in a planned manner, and following high international and national evaluation and ethical standards, and more importantly, mechanisms that ensure the results are utilized. Not only that, the ecosystem must ensure development of institutional and individual capacities of the evaluators to the required level. Now, voluntary organizations can work as a seed for a vast outreach and sensitization. Their role in knowledge exchange and professionalization and creating networks for targeted learning is crucial. But one of the main challenges these VOPEs face is their own survival and sustainability. VOPEs need to develop business model and strong leadership, and all stakeholders need to recognize the importance of the VOPEs and give their due they deserve. And also that evaluators need to introspect that how VOPEs and evaluators can make a difference in the societies and the countries. I hope you all enjoyed the session and discussions. I would like to thank all the speakers and participants for a very lively webinar. Now I invite Sabina Mathias for proposing a formal vote of thanks. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Rashmi ji, and Rajib, Asela, Ziad. What an engaging conversation. It was truly, in a sense, very transformative, because I think the first time we addressed how VOPEs and the word voluntary is not just a form of professional practice, but is also a form of engaged citizenship. It is, after all, owning the transformative processes we witness and placing and positioning ourselves in the communities where we work and where we should and can influence. Thank you all so much for such wonderful insights, and it has been truly a pleasure having you here, and we hope to have you back as well. Thank you.